Do you feel like you are mentally, physically, or even emotionally and spiritually exhausted? If so, maybe the Lord is telling you to slow down. Grab your coffee, find your comfiest chair, and let's rise and shine. Good morning, guys. I hope that you are having a great day. How are we doing today? Are we doing all right? Or are we feeling kind of like what the intro said? Are we feeling a little bit physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, like you just cannot think straight, or even emotionally or spiritually exhausted, which sometimes I feel like those kind of get shoved to the side. A lot of times we notice when we're physically exhausted, that's the easiest one to recognize because our body hurts, our body is tired. We're usually able to notice pretty quickly when we're mentally exhausted because we are in a state of brain fog or in a state of, oh my gosh, I just cannot think about this topic anymore. I can't think about this project. I need a break, right? But a lot of times we aren't quick to recognize when we're emotionally or even spiritually exhausted. And that's really what I kind of want to talk about today, that all those things are important and all those things are causing us to probably miss out on some of the things that the Lord has for us because we're so exhausted we can't even think about the things that God is calling us to do, or we're so tired we can't even hear His voice. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's kind of something that He's been talking to me about. Oh, by the way, I actually have coffee this time. It's been a minute since I've actually had coffee on the podcast in my super cute like rise and shine mug. I don't know if you can see it. My mom got it for me and it's really cute. I'm so excited. I haven't tried this coffee. It's a Turkish coffee. I got from the Euromart store the other day. It's pretty good. I definitely put too much water into it because I wasn't paying attention, to be honest, which kind of goes into what we're talking about. I wasn't paying attention when I was pouring my water in because I had left my water boiling to come set up to do the podcast. And while I was setting up to do the podcast, I heard the water start to boil, and I didn't have it in a tea kettle this time. I just had boiled it in a pot. I was like, I forgot. I hope it's not boiling over. So I'm running over to make sure my water isn't boiling over. And I just pull it off the stove and just immediately pour it into my mug without really thinking. And actually, I did think about it beforehand. I was like, I'm going to see, this is a huge mug. If you can't tell, it's like as big as my face. It's a huge mug. I need to be aware of how much water I'm pouring into it because I wasn't measuring. I was just kind of eyeballing it. But because I was in a state of rush, in a state of, I say panic, in the moment of panic of I don't want to boil the water over and make a mess, I just threw that water in this giant mug with only like a heaping teaspoon of instant coffee, which means that the task I was doing was rushed. I wasn't being diligent. I wasn't being careful. I wasn't being considerate of how the water was going to affect the taste of the coffee. And I think actually I didn't mean to bring this in as an example, but it kind of works perfectly because that's what happens when we're not moving slow sometimes, when we're rushing, when we are trying to fit the pace of the world. And right now the world is very much a go, 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 go type situation, that we feel like all we have to do is just get the thing done and just rush into the next thing. And we're not actually thinking about the product or the outcome of whatever we're doing. I just threw that water in because I just wanted to get the water off the stove and into my cup. Which, again, it still tastes fine, but I think it would have been much better had I used less water. What I needed to do was not try to multitask in a different room when I had boiling water on the stove. And a lot of times that's what happens. We jump into these projects, we jump into these ideas. And I'm the world's worst at it. You can ask my husband. Like, I definitely volunteer myself for way too many things. And I am trying to get better at it. But there are things I want to do. And there are things that a lot of them, maybe not all of them, a lot of them are things that God has called me to do. But when we jump in unprepared, or when we jump in all at once and rush into things, then we're not giving those things the time and attention and effort that they deserve. Like I said, the world today is so rushed. It's so hurried. People are packing their schedules minute by minute, even. Some people, like I remember in college, and it made sense in college because, I was in a lot of classes. I was always taking the most credit hours, and that was for a reason, because I was a music major and a music ed major, so I was basically a double major, and I was having to fit all these classes into 4 years because I didn't want to go past 4 years. So sometimes there are times where we do have to go through times where, yeah, this season is really heavy. We will walk through seasons that are busy, but we don't want to stay in that season. But anyway, remember in college, I had a planner that broke my day down literally by every 15 minutes. Not by every day, not by every hour, every 15 minutes, so that I could get all the things done that I needed to do. And we just pack our schedules so heavy. We've talked about this before, but it's been a while, and I think we need a reminder. I definitely need a reminder. I think the Lord's been reminding me about this. We really need to slow ourselves down and really allow ourselves to learn from the things we're doing. Allow ourselves to pour in the knowledge, the effort, the love and time and attention that each project or each meeting or whatever the thing may be that it needs. And not only that, allow God the time to work on us through whatever activity that is. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how technology is really causing a distraction for us. It's causing a lot of busyness, a lot of noise. It's causing a lot of anxiety for people, and it's tearing us away from spending time with the Lord. And it's kind of the same thing. That episode, I got a lot of feedback on that episode, and it really resonated with a lot of you. And so this is kind of an extension. We focused on technology in that episode. And today we're really just going to focus on just things in general, our schedule, the way we choose to live our life, the fact that we're so used to instant gratification that we don't know how to wait on things anymore. We don't know how to wait on things anymore. Yet the Bible talks about waiting so much. There are so many verses that tell us to wait on the Lord. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." Other verses say, "Wait on the Lord. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength, and they will soar on wings like eagles." That's in Isaiah. We don't know how to do that anymore. We don't know how to wait. And I am finding that I feel like I've turned into not a perfectionist necessarily, which in some things I am a perfectionist, but more of a completionist. Like, all I want to do is get the task done and say, okay, cool, I did it, and have that in my belt. Now let's move on to the next task and get that one done. I want things to be good. I do. I genuinely do. But when we have that mindset of, okay, I'm just going to complete it and get it done and move on to the next thing because I actually took on too many things. So I don't have time to be a perfectionist. I don't have time to really put the attention and detail in this thing that I want to. So I'm just going to get it done and go on to the next thing. But when we do that, it's not as rewarding as it should be, really. It's not as fruitful as it should be, especially if it's something that is in our calling that we're supposed to be doing. Maybe the Lord has called us to do that, but we're rushing through it. it's become more about getting it done than reaping from the labor. A verse I want to read you, 1 Thessalonians 4:11 and 12. And this is Paul writing to the Thessalonians, saying, kind of, this is how the Lord would want you to live your life. And he's talking about earlier in the verse, or earlier in the chapter, he's talking about, okay, steer away from immorality, steer away from sin, and then like kind of lists some. Then he says, and aspire to live quietly and to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one. So that one kind of hit me because it says, aspire to live your life quietly. And like I said, a couple weeks ago, we talked about how noisy our lives have become with technology. But it's not even just technology, which a lot of it is, but a lot of it is just how much we're trying to pack into our lives, how much we are trying to think about, how much brain power it's taking to do all these different things. A little imagery that a lot of people use is like spreading butter. If you have this much butter and you spread it on a huge piece of bread and you try to spread it all over the whole bread, then yeah, the bread's gonna have butter, but it's gonna be so light that you can't even taste it. But if you have a smaller piece of bread and you spread that butter on that small piece of bread, then you're going to taste it. It's going to enhance it, right? You're not, when you spread yourself too thin, when you have too many things that you're thinking about, when you have too many things that are just pulling your attention, that are in here. Again, we're talking about like emotional and spiritual and mental exhaustion. When you find that you cannot sit down and like think about something or through think a full sentence or think a full process without getting tired, without getting distracted, then that means you have too much that you're thinking about, right? You have too much that is pulling your attention and your efforts. But it says aspire to live quietly. But that doesn't mean lazily. That doesn't mean do nothing. Aspire to live quietly. When you are home after work, what are you doing? If you have kids, of course, you're trying to take care of kids. We are called to like take care of your kids, right? And like teach them and raise them and pour into them and take care of the home. But are you taking time with your kids to like go sit outside? Go let them play outside. Or are you only focusing on their homework? Are you only focusing, if it's just you, if you don't have kids, are you going home and crashing out and doom scrolling? Or are you going home and doing more work? Are you going home and you have so many other side projects that you're not actually off the clock until you go to sleep? Or are you going outside with your cup of coffee and watching the sunset? I have a cow pasture across the street from my house, and it's so pretty. You can see the cows just literally from my house. They're not my cows, but I like to pretend they are sometimes. But I don't often enough go and sit in front of my house and watch the sunset and just turn off my brain, which we are called, because the next part of that verse, we are called to do work. We're not called to sit around and do nothing. The Lord wants us to do the work that he's called us to do. It gives us purpose, right? But the next part of that verse says, so it says, and to mind your own affairs, we'll talk about that, but it says, and to work with your hands as we instructed you. So not just sitting down doing nothing, that's too far the other way. Work with your hands. But we want to work with our hands because God's called us to do that. And the work we do is important. But we also want to enjoy the fruits of that labor. Psalm 128 verse 2 says, "You shall eat the fruit of your labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you." The Lord wants us to enjoy the fruits of our labor. But if we're coming home and we are just doing more work, then we're not enjoying the fruits of our labor. If we are only focused on getting the ministry started and getting people to the ministry and inviting people and like creating these cool Bible studies and creating these cool events and creating all this kind of stuff for people to enjoy, but then you're not creating time for people to come to you. You're not creating time for people to pour into you. You're not creating time to spend one-on-one time with those people that are coming to your events. Then you're not enjoying the fruits of your labor. You're just wearing yourself out. And other people are enjoying the fruits of your labor, which, yes, we are meant to use our gifts for the edification and benefit of others, but God also wants us to enjoy that as well. But we can't enjoy that if we're rushing from one thing to another. If we're just rushing to get things done rather than to do them well. Proverbs 13:11 says, "Wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it." If you are rushing to gain, think about like side hustles. Okay, let's put this in like literal monetary terms. Think about side hustles. You could go out and do all these things, all these activities or small little task jobs that make you money quickly. But because you don't have a consistent career, a consistent day by day job, right? Or maybe you do, and then you're doing those things on the side. But that money that you gain from those side hustles will go like that. And because it was just a side hustle, because you just did it quickly and then went to the next thing, it's not there anymore. But it says, "But whoever gathers little by little will increase it." Whoever really pours into their job, really spends the time, again, not too much, but really takes the time to do well at the tasks that they've been given. And it might be a slower process, but it will be more stable. It will last longer. Same goes for anything that you think you've been called to do for life. If you're just rushing to the next fun project, even that fun, that joy, that happiness, it's not going to last. That excitement, it's not going to last. You're going to want to build and base your joy in the joy of the Lord. It's going to last and it won't ever perish. So the part that we kind of skipped over in that verse is, "And to mind your own affairs." Paul is telling the Thessalonians, mind your own business. Part of the reason we feel so exhausted, or we feel so busy, or we feel just like we have no time on our hands, we're so tired, we can't think straight because this is happening and that's happening, and there's just too much going on that you can't focus on anything, and you just feel frazzled. Sometimes it's because you've inserted yourself in something that you weren't meant to be in, whether it be somebody else's business, whether it be you volunteered for something that maybe the Lord didn't want you to volunteer for. Did maybe you didn't pray first about volunteering and you jumped into it and it wasn't really what you were supposed to do. It just sounded fun. It sounded cool. It sounded like, "Oh man, I feel like that's a great ministry. I want to be part of it," right? Or maybe it's you are so concerned with other people's lives, other people's businesses. Maybe it's turning a little bit into something a little gossipy, a little busybody, right? Maybe you're inserting yourself into things that you are not supposed to be in. Mind your own affairs, mind your own business. Now, I want to quick disclaimer. If you see that somebody, one of your friends or somebody at church, is really struggling or is in a situation or is making some choices that could lead them down a path of destruction, and you feel like you do need to step in, there is absolutely a time and a place for that. And we are called to help our brothers and sisters in Christ and step in when needed. That definitely takes prayer first. You need to be built up in prayer and you need to be led by the Holy Spirit in how to do that. Okay? I just want to disclaim that this is that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But if you hear, "Oh, Miss Sally over there is doing this, this, and this," and you're like, "Oh, maybe I should go talk to her and like kind of see what's going on." But really, it's not out of concern for her. It's out of like, "Oh, I just want to go and like see what's going on," or "I just want to go and kind of be part of this. I would just want to go and watch the action happen," right? Then one, that's not kind or loving, and then that's not what Jesus would do. That's really getting into the gossip, into the busybody, into the pot stirring type stuff. It's not helping anyone, and if anything, it's making the situation worse. But also, you're just bringing more drama, more anxiety onto yourself also. And probably onto the other party too, because you're not meant to be in it. So there are things that we just bring upon ourselves. We insert ourselves into places that we're not meant to be. And Paul is telling the Thessalonians here, like, no, mind your own affairs, mind your own business. Work on the things God has called you to do and not try to jump in and be a part of everything. And me, like, I'm the kind of person, I think I almost have like FOMO sometimes, like fear of missing out. And I just love to do things with people. I'm very much I'm like every time I take like a Myers-Briggs test, I'm like 51 introvert, 50 or 49 extrovert, or vice versa. It just switches all the time. So I definitely have my moments and my seasons where I just want to be around people and be involved. And then because I'm 49% introvert, in my seasons of extrovertedness, I take on all these things and I insert myself into all these things. And then in my seasons of introvertedness, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do anything that I just signed up for. I'm so tired. I'm so worn out. And so we just want to be mindful and prayerful of the things that we're taking on, of the things that we're inserting ourselves into. And then the last part of this verse says, so that you may walk properly before outsiders and be dependent on no one. In the light of what we're talking about, this verse really reminds us that non-believers are watching us. A lot of them are watching us and waiting for us to make a mistake. A lot of them are watching us out of curiosity. A lot of them are watching us and saying, man, I really want what they have. If we're walking in Christ and bearing good fruit, they're going to see that. But a lot of times, if we are so fast in what we're doing, if we are not walking slowly with the Lord, if we are not taking the time to really hear him, and that's the big thing too, is if we're just running through life from one thing to the next, when are you listening to God? When are you giving him time to talk to you? When are you allowing him to pour into you, allowing him to lead you and guide you if you're just going so fast? And he's called us to wait, and he's called us to be still sometimes. Anyway, just a reminder of that, because that's the whole point. But if we are running and we are so exhausted, and if we are to the point where we like cannot think clearly in a conversation, if someone is looking at us living that kind of life, that kind of hurried, rushed life, and maybe we're involved in all kinds of ministries and we think we're doing well, we think we're being productive, but the projects we're working on are hastily done and maybe are lacking in some things. If a non-believer is watching that and watching you be exhausted all the time and watching you not taking time to refill your cup and express joy and peace and rest, which God has called us to rest in him. And the life that you're living is really no different from the hurried and harried busyness of the world. Do you really think that that non-believer is going to be drawn to that? Is going to see a difference between your hurried life and the world's hurried life? Really let that sink in, because I think that's something we don't think about. We think, oh, but I'm doing all these good things for the Lord. Okay, cool, but are you doing them well? Are you taking time to refill your cup so that you can pour more out? Or are you just getting through it? Just like non believers are getting through it. Just like people who don't know the Lord and are just busy and think that filling their schedules, filling their minds with activities, with projects is going to distract them from their emptiness. Do you think that they're going to see the difference in that? Or that they're going to be like, no, that's that's just the same. Why would I want that? But ultimately, the Lord wants us to slow down so that we can hear his voice, so that we can be prayerful and mindful of the things he is calling us to do, and so that those things will be done with excellence, will be done with his guidance, will be done walking side by side with Jesus and not trying to run up ahead of him and then wearing ourselves out. And then Jesus is kind of comes up to us and he's like, what are you doing? Like, I was still back there. You're so tired because you weren't walking with me. His timing is perfect. So why are we trying to rush it? Slow yourselves down. Take the time to do the things he's called you to do well. That may mean you do less things. That may mean that you say no to some things. That may mean that you start living a life that is a little bit quieter, a little bit slower, and it's going to feel very different. You're going to feel maybe a little bit out of place. You might see your neighbor like doing all these things and whatever, but that you're going to know that your neighbor's going to burn themselves out. We are called to look different than the world. And right now, the world is busy, it's hurried. Boss it up, guys. Like, don't quit. Put your life on hold and pour everything you have into your work. Put your life on hold and pour everything you have into making money. Put your life on hold and pour everything, every waking moment into climbing the ladder. But that's not how we're supposed to live our lives. We're not supposed to look like that. God calls us to rest. God rests on the seventh day after creating the entire earth, and He's God, and He chose to rest. Jesus had times where He went out to away from people to rest. In Mark chapter 6, verse 31, He calls His disciples to rest. It says, and starting in verse 30, the apostles returned to Jesus and told him all the things that they had done and taught. And he said to them, come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest for a while. For many were coming and going. The world, even in Jesus' time, many were coming and going. It was busy. And they had no leisure to even eat. I'm sure a lot of you out there have made yourself so busy that you forgot to eat lunch. I know that happens all the time. I'm hungry all the time, so I rarely let that happen, but I've done it before, right? But I feel it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. But a lot of you out there fill up your time so much that you don't even have time to take care of a physical need, to nourish your body the way God meant it to be nourished, right? So he even told the apostles, and even Jesus himself went away and rested. It is so important. Slow down. If you read through Jesus's stories in his life, he did not rush anywhere. He took his time, and even sometimes to the frustration of his disciples and his friends, he took his time. He was not rushed. If he saw somebody on his way to something and he saw somebody in need, he stopped. He didn't be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll come back to you, but like I got to get to this one thing cuz this is my next." Like sometimes we're so focused. We've got like blinders on the sides and we can only see what's in front of us and we can't see what's to the side because we're so rushed. But Jesus didn't live like that. He stopped and he healed the people who called him to the side, who called his name from afar. Jesus, Jesus. He stopped when the woman touched the hem of his garment. He stopped and turned and said, "Who touched me?" When he was surrounded and the disciples were like, Jesus, like, a lot of people are touching you right now because you're in a giant crowd. Even when Lazarus was sick and dying, and his friends sent people to tell him and said, "Jesus, please hurry. He's not going to make it. Come quickly." Jesus took his time, stayed there. I think it was 2 more days, stayed 2 more days where he was. And it was like a 2-day journey there. So he didn't make it till like several days later. Lazarus had been dead and in the tomb for 4 days. Jesus wasn't even rushed then because he knew the miracle he was about to perform. He knew that his timing was perfect. Jesus didn't rush anything. He didn't rush into his ministry. Even when Mary told him, "Hey, Jesus, the wine is gone. Like, let's make some water into wine or something." And he did it, but he even told his mother, like, "It's not my time yet. Like, I don't want to rush this." Jesus didn't rush. So why are we trying to rush? Jesus didn't try to fit everything he could into all the time he had. There is a lot of times where we see Jesus reclining and relaxing and enjoying his friends. And we need to do the same. We need to focus less on getting things done and focus more on first spending time with God quietly, spending time alone with ourselves and enjoying the fruits of our labor. And then also spending time with our friends, with our family, with the people we love. I pray that you slow down, that you take the time to do what you're called well, and you take the time to really hear God's voice. Now, go out there and shine.